Let me tell why all something real quick. I've lived long enough to know, cheap rent always comes with a cost. Sometimes it's mice. Sometimes it's mold. And sometimes it's something you can't see. At least not all at once. This ain't a story about ghosts. This ain't even about murder. It's about a man named Jason, and the roommate he found online. Craigslist, of all places. He thought he was getting a steal, a quiet man, paid on time, didn't he eat much, kept to himself. But after 2 weeks, Jason noticed something strange. His roommate, he was always home. Always. And no matter what room Jason walked into, kitchen, hallway, even the damn bathroom mirror, that man was already there. Watching. Smiling. Not blinking. And worst of all, Jason never once heard him open a door. Jason had never lived with anyone before. Not since college, anyway. He was 34, a freelance designer, quiet by nature, and perfectly content with his small one-bedroom apartment in East Vancouver. But when rent shot up and clients dried out, he did what any broke man would do, he opened Craigslist. Room for rent. Clean. Quiet. Must be respectful. 500 month. He got 5 replies. 4 were sketchy. 1 was normal. A man named Edward. Mid-40s. Soft-spoken. Professional sounding. Said he worked from home doing data correction or something. Didn't he ask too many questions? Offered first and last month's rent up front. Jason met him once. Briefly. Edward was clean, polite, and had this way of smiling without showing teeth, just lips curled up, eyes a little too wide. Weird, but not alarming. He's quiet. He minds his business. That's all I need, Jason thought. The first night, Edward didn't make a sound. No footsteps. No cabinet doors. Nothing. Jason figured he'd lucked out. But then came week 2. And that's when the little things started. It began with something small. Jason walked into the kitchen one morning, groggy and half awake, and found Edward already there, standing perfectly still, holding a mug, staring at the window. "Morning," Jason muttered. Edward didn't reply. He just nodded, slow, mechanical, and sipped from the empty mug. Jason thought nothing of it. Until that night. He was brushing his teeth in the hallway bathroom when the door behind him creaked open. In the mirror, he saw Edward. Standing just outside. No sound. No footsteps. Just, standing. Jason jumped. Turned. "Hey man, you good?" Edward just smiled that same tight-lipped smile, and walked away without a word. By Friday, Jason started noticing a pattern. No matter what room he walked into. The kitchen, the living room, the hallway. Edward was already there. Always standing. Always watching. Never doing anything. Never moving when Jason was watching him. Maybe the guy's just awkward. That's what Jason kept telling himself. Until Sunday night. That's when things turned. That's when Jason walked into his own bedroom. Door fully shut, lights off, and saw Edward sitting on the edge of his bed. Hands folded. Staring at the wall. Like he'd been waiting there. "Edward, what the hell, man?" Edward didn't flinch. Didn't speak. Didn't even turn his head. He just stood up. Walked past Jason. And exited the room. But Jason never heard the door open. And when he checked the hallway seconds later, Edward wasn't there. He wasn't anywhere. The only thing left was the faint smell of something like iron, and the indent on the bed where someone had been sitting. Jason didn't sleep that night. He lay in bed with the covers pulled up to his chin, eyes wide open, staring at the shadows on the ceiling. He kept listening, for footsteps, for breathing, for anything. But there was nothing. Just silence. Too much silence. In the morning, Jason opened his bedroom door slowly, half expecting Edward to be standing there again. But the hallway was empty. Quiet. So, he made coffee. Tried to shake it off. It's just nerves. I've been stressed. I'm overthinking it. He even laughed at himself. Until he opened the fridge, and found a single raw egg cracked and empty sitting upright on the top shelf. Balanced perfectly. No carton. No yolk. No reason. Edward was in the living room. Of course he was. Standing behind the armchair. Not sitting, just standing. Facing the window again. Still as stone. Jason cleared his throat. Hey man. We good? No answer. Just the faint sound of the wall clock ticking. Jason stared at him for a moment, then turned to grab his coffee, only to look back and find Edward gone. Just gone. No footsteps. No door. Gone. Jason dropped the mug. That afternoon, Jason decided to set boundaries. He waited until Edward walked past the hallway, which was already weird, because Edward hadn't made a sound all morning, and stepped into the corridor. Hey. Quick thing. I know this is your home too, but can you, knock before coming into my room? That was really weird last night. Edward turned slowly. His eyes looked glassy. Almost like they were wet, but too dry at the same time. Then he said, in a voice just a little too deep, "This is my room." Jason blinked. The words didn't register right. What? Edward just smiled again, that same tight-lipped, inhuman curve, and walked away. Jason started locking his bedroom door at night. Started placing a chair under the handle. Started keeping a small pocket knife under his pillow, not because he wanted to use it, but because he needed to feel like he could. But by midweek, the locks didn't matter anymore. Because Wednesday morning, Jason woke up. And Edward was already in the room. Again. But this time he was sitting in the closet. Not even hiding. Just sitting. Staring at Jason with unblinking eyes, knees tucked to his chest. The closet door was open. And Jason was sure, absolutely sure, that he had locked it the night before. Jason bolted upright. What do you want? No answer. Edward stood slowly, and walked into the hallway. No footsteps. No words. Just air behind him. Jason didn't follow. He waited. Sat on the edge of his bed with trembling hands, heart pounding in his throat. He stared at the open closet. And he whispered to himself, I have to get out of here. Just essentials. Laptop. Phone. Hoodie. Toothbrush. Didn't he even grab his work stuff? Didn't he care? He was done. Finished. Ready to get the hell out. But first he had to confront Edward. He had to make sure this was really happening. That it wasn't in his head. So, Jason did something risky. He walked into the hallway with his phone camera on, recording. The lights flickered. The air was cold, too cold for late spring in Vancouver. He turned into the kitchen, and there he was. Edward. Standing in front of the fridge. Still. Head tilted at an unnatural angle, like a puppet that been strung up too tight. Jason raised the phone. "Say something," he demanded. "You've been in my room. You're always, everywhere. Who are you?" Edward didn't move. So Jason stepped closer. And when he did, Edward whispered, barely audible, "I never left." Jason blinked. "What did you say?" Edward turned slowly. But it wasn't a human turn. It was as if his body pivoted before his feet moved, like something was wearing a human shape, but not built for it. "I never left," Edward repeated. "You let me in. That's all I needed." Jason dropped the phone. Turned to run and stopped dead. Edward was standing in the doorway. But he was still behind him, too. Two Edwards. Identical. Smiling. No footsteps. No sound. Just, present. Jason slammed the bathroom door shut and locked it. He stared in the mirror, panting, heart pounding. And in the reflection, Edward stood behind him again. In the mirror. But not in the room. Jason turned around. Nothing. He looked back. There Edward was still in the reflection, grinning too wide, mouth slightly open this time. And Jason realized. It wasn't just the house. It wasn't just the man. Edward was inside the mirrors. Inside the walls. Inside every room Jason had walked into. He wasn't just a roommate. He wasn't a person at all. Jason fled. Sprinted down the stairs, through the front door open, but outside was wrong. The street was there. The sidewalk. The trees. But the shadows were bent. Street lights flickered the wrong color, greenish blue, humming like electricity in water. And across the street, standing in front of every house, was Edward. Hundreds of him. All watching. All smiling. All waiting. Jason screamed. He turned to run back into the house, but the door was gone. Only a wall now. Seamless. No entry. No exit. And behind him. Edward whispered, inches from his ear, "You invited me in, Jason. I never left. And now. You won't either."